My dear friends, have you ever reached a moment in life where you wondered if every effort, every tear, every quiet prayer was falling into silence? Have you ever feared that perhaps nothing would ever change? Today, I want to tell you a story, not of defeat, but of a turning point. Stay with me, for what I am about to share could very well be your moment of awakening. There was a man named Daniel. He was not famous. He did not hold titles or crowns. He was an ordinary man who had carried extraordinary burdens. For years, he labored faithfully. For years, he offered kindness without recognition. For years, he carried quiet prayers in the still of night. And yet, every door seemed to close, every opportunity seemed to fade. His heart grew weary, and he longed for just one sign that his life was not in vain. Perhaps you know what that feels like. Perhaps you too have sat in that quiet room, waiting, wondering, whispering, "Lord, do you still see me?" One evening, as Daniel sat in silence, something stirred deep within him. It was not thunder. It was not a loud trumpet. It was a whisper, gentle, steady, unmistakable. The whisper said, "The change has already begun." This was not a fleeting comfort, not a passing encouragement. No, my friends, this was the beginning of something steadfast. This was not the shallow tide of human reassurance. This was the deep current of divine restoration. But as that whisper echoed in his spirit, distractions came rushing in. The noise of the world, the doubts of others, and even his own fatigue tried to smother it. Isn't that what happens to us? Just as the promise draws near, something tries to pull our gaze away. Some give up right at the edge of breakthrough. They lose heart at the finish line. Daniel felt it too, the temptation to surrender, to believe nothing had truly changed. His thoughts argued, every blessing before has faded, every hope has crumbled. Why should this time be any different? But then, once again, the whisper cut through the doubt. What I give now will not fade. What I place in your hands will not be fragile. Friends, hear this truth. What comes from God is not momentary. It is eternal, rooted, and unshakable. Daniel remembered the nights when sleep would not come. He remembered the hours when he carried burdens no one else could see. He remembered the times he chose integrity when retaliation would have been easier. And he heard another whisper. Not one tear was wasted. Not one prayer was forgotten. Not one sacrifice was unseen. This is the God who sees what others overlook. This is the God who writes down every hidden act of faithfulness. Then came the declaration that shifted everything. The time of silence is ending. The season of open display has begun. Can you hear the weight of those words? This was not the end of Daniel's story. It was the unveiling of a new chapter. A divine distinction was about to be made clear between those who held fast and those who turned away. The voice spoke again. This is not a spark that fades. This is a flame that will endure. I will open doors no man can shut. I will sustain connections that will not break. I will supply needs that will not run dry. It was not about momentary relief. It was about a new foundation. A life no longer built on shifting sands, but on an everlasting rock. But the warning was clear. Be watchful. Many lose heart at the final step. Many grow weary when the finish line is in sight. Do not let the whispers of doubt steal what is already within your grasp. And that, dear friends, is where many of us falter. Not in the beginning, not in the middle, but at the very brink of fulfillment. Let Daniel's story remind us. Hold steady when everything tempts you to let go. Daniel was told, "You will not need to defend yourself. I will be your defense. Those who dismissed you will see my favor. Those who doubted you will witness my strength. No one can tear down what I establish." Justice was not his to fight for. It was God's to declare. Vindication was not won in argument, but in undeniable evidence of divine favor. The voice continued, "Do not despise the waiting. Waiting was not wasted time. It was preparation. It was building strength in you to carry what I am about to give." My friends, how many times do we see waiting as punishment, when in truth it is construction? Waiting is not the absence of God. It is his workshop, shaping us, steadying us, preparing us for the weight of blessing. Daniel realized something profound. It was never about being perfect. It was never about flawless performance. It was about remaining faithful. And then the voice declared, "Your story will not be only for you. Others will draw courage from your perseverance. Others will find hope through your testimony." Do you hear that, dear friends? Your faithfulness is not just for your own reward. It becomes a beacon for others walking through their night. The promise unfolded. What felt closed will now open. What felt absent will now overflow. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a new dimension. And Daniel began to see it. Not through striving, not through force, but through the natural unfolding of divine timing. The obstacles that once blocked him began to move. The doors that once shut tight began to swing wide. At that moment, Daniel bowed his head and whispered a simple prayer. Lord, I agree. I receive this season not as a fleeting gift, but as a lasting covenant. It was not a long prayer. It was not dressed in eloquence. It was simply an act of agreement, an alignment of his heart with the divine voice he had heard. Friends, Daniel's story is not just his own. It is a mirror for ours. The lesson is clear. Perseverance is never wasted. Faithfulness is never forgotten. Every hidden sacrifice carries eternal weight. The time of silence is ending. The time of unveiling is here. What once seemed fragile will now be strong. What once felt fleeting will now endure. Lift your eyes, take a deep breath, step forward into the season prepared for you. This is not the conclusion. It is the beginning of a new chapter. And remember, when God establishes something, no one can tear it down.